Hey kids, Mr. Glenn here, hope you're well. We are into our next lesson with Inkscape, and you can see that I've got two pieces of art here. These logos, they possibly could be. They're just something that we've made up. And one is a simple flat shape, which is this one here, which is what we were in the last lesson. We just had flat shapes and they were 2D, all on the same plane. And this one here is a layered version. And what this means is we can move each individual object in here onto a different layer. And there are lots of positives for this. This one, if we try to edit this, we will destroy it. So there are things that we will do in here that will force us into using lots and lots and lots of undo, which is what we want to try and escape from. This one here has its own individual layer for each object, and it means that you can move things around on top of each other and not destroy them. If I give you an example of what this looks like, this is old-fashioned paint. And paint is easy to use because it's basic. But when you start to try and move shapes around that are already into a plane of color, you will see that when I try to select this now and I want to get this green box here into this here, let's say we're trying to make a flag of some kind, and I move this, I've now destroyed this. Now this is relatively easy to fill back in because I can use the same color. However, once I've clicked off this, these two shapes have now joined each other. If I try to move this out again, this is what many people do. You can see that I've now got this endless pieces of destruction. So layers, they're super important, and your layers are over here. So when you go to your layers, you'll see that I have named them as well. Now this is good practice. Name the things that they are, give them a good description of what they are. Your layers may look like this, all kind of compressed and short. Don't worry, you can just move your mouse down here, look, and you can see that when I move it there, I get that double-ended arrow. It means I can move things around, I can pull them back down. So this is my basic version here, and I've got eyes on the side here, my layers, so I can turn them on and off. You will also notice that on the side, next to the eyes, are padlocks. And this is helpful as well, because if you don't want to destroy things and you want to keep it all nice and tidy, this is what we're going to be using as well. We're going to lock things as we make them. Okay. So this is just the introduction. This is in a two-part. So I'm just going to show you how this all works. So in here, we're going to create our shapes, just like we created our shapes before. You are going to make this using this file, and you're going to make a copy of this with your own set of layers here. Inside your layers, you can, if I go to my crescent moon, which is this one here, I can make a layer above it by clicking the plus, and it asks me what I want my layer to be named as. I don't want this to be called Crescent Moon 2. What I want is I'm going to go and make my rounded top box to start with, because that's going to be the easiest thing to move on from our last lesson. Rounded top box. I'm going to call this rounded top box blue because I'm going to make it. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll make it red because I've got a blue one already. So my rounded top box red is now on the top layer in here. I'm going to go and get a rectangle, and I'm in this layer on the top. It's got the same settings as before, so I'm going to hit S. You can see on my keyboard, I'm going to hit S, and I'm going to double click this. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to use Control and my mouse wheel. Make that nice and flat. And then I'm going to go and use an ellipse here. I'm going to do this very quickly. Hit S to select, or I can just go to my selection over here. And if I double click, you know that I can go and make a semicircle. And if I hold down Control, it will snap. So you can see my fingers are just going to use Control here in the corner. I go to S for select, and I'm going to drag it up to the other side. And I'm going to just pull that down on top of each other. I'm going to hold down Shift because I've selected this one. I want to join them together. So I'll hold down Shift and click the rectangle, and it joins them together. And bring my mouse over. I can now go and group my objects together. So this button here allows me to group. The shortcut there is Control and G. So you can only see my keyboard, Control and G. And now I can go and make this into a red. Make a nice big scarlet red. I'm going to use my stroke and my fill. You see it's not terribly tidy here, but it's okay for this example. I make yours a bit tidy, I suppose. So I'm going to go and just resize this like so. Now this is on the top layer. So just to show you how this layer works, and hold Control and zoom out. So the layers now this is all on top of each other. You can move your layers up and down just by grabbing them and dragging them. So if I grab them and drag them here, if you try to put them inside each other, they will make a subgroup. You can see that it makes a thicker line underneath the titles there. So if I drop it into there like that, you'll see that, can you see that it's just made a subgroup? That's not really what we want. We can pull that out and move it back again into that layer there. So I've got my red top box fill, and it's underneath everything else here. So it's underneath this whole object. You can see that it just slides under, look. So that's the beauty of the layers that we were talking about before. So I'm going to bring this to the top again because I want this on the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to make these ellipses, and I'm going to go and make another rounded top box. So this is just a separate shape now, but it is the same. It's just got a different stroke and fill, which is what we learned about before. So you can Control C and Control V. So I'm going to use my Control down here, Control C, and then Control V. And it's made another one. It's still got that untidy edge to it, but we will persevere. So I want it to be filled. I want it to be no fill. You can see that I've got this line in here where the join is together. Don't need to worry about that because we can group another white one together. And if I hold down Shift and make a black line like this, if I go into my stroke and fill, if you remember, my stroke and fill is over here, so I can edit my objects with the paintbrush in this box. I'll get my stroke and fill. I'm going to go and get my stroke in here, and I want it to be black, and I want my stroke style to be rather fat. If I bring this up and make it big and fat to join the other ones, I still have this black bar in the middle. You don't need to worry about this because we can use this shape again, and we can Control C and Control V and paste another one and put them on top of each other. And you can see that what I'm going to do is just very gently turn this into white using a white stroke and a white fill. And I zoom in a little bit here, get rid of this red accent. Just move that up. You can see how untidy it's becoming with this edge. Perhaps I should have fixed it, but never mind. If I hold down Shift, I can select both things together like that, and then do the same again, and I can group them and they become a solid object all together. So I'm going to go and group this using my group object, and now I've got this shape underneath. So this is where we start to get out of our 2D plane, because now we have two objects in the same layer. So this is where we want to start to organize ourselves into different layers. So I'm going to go and close my fill and stroke. Don't need that anymore. Rounded top box red, and what I want is rounded top box let's call this rounded top box number 3, because this is going to be 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to go and send this into a new layer. And to do that, I need to go and make a new layer. Rounded top box 3, like that. And I've got my rounded top box red, and I want this to be on top of each other like this. So I can move this around. I've gone and dropped that in there by accident. So I want my red on top, like this. But I need to go and send this into my layers. They're still in the same layer. So what I can do is I use my right click on my mouse, and I want to send this into the correct layer. So you can organize things really simply just by right clicking, and it says send to a layer or move to a layer here. Once you click on move to a layer, you can send it to wherever you want. You can organize things. If you find things in the wrong order, it's absolutely fine. So I'm going to go and move to my layer. So I want this to be in rounded top box red, which is exactly what it is. And then I can move it. Once it's moved, you'll notice now that it's now on top. So that's the beauty of using layers. So it just allows you to organize things really, really simply. So now I can just move this around and try to match the other shapes, like so. Now, if you want some fine control, instead of having to use the mouse, what you can do is you can use your arrow keys, and you can see that it moves it by about a pixel at a time. If you hold down Shift, now you can't see my fingers on the other side because I've got my my arrow keys, but if I hold down Shift here, you'll see that it jumps about 10 pixels at a time. So you can move things around nice and easily like that. So that's that done. So if I just go and select these, pull this out of the way. Use my arrow keys like that. There we go. Now your next job is to go and create these crescent moons and a circle. And all I've done is within these, I've made 2 circles to make a crescent moon like that on top of another ellipse. I should really use the proper language. Ellipse on top of there. So I've grouped those 2 together and created another shape. Now to do the eye, I've used the pen tool for the first time. So my Bezier curve here is, if I zoom in here a little bit, is clicking and pulling. Once I get my line to the end like this, I can resize it later on. It will join up with different places until you get to the end, and then you double click like that, and it will create your path. So I'm going to go and undo this because I don't want that. What I want to do is just a straight line like this. I'm going to double click, and it creates a line like that. Now along this line, what we can do is we can start to edit the nodes that are in there. You can add points to be able to pull it around up and down to make V shapes, angles, but you can also pull them around by editing the paths with the nodes. And what we can do is inside your line, you can double click it and put a point in it where we can create a bend. So I'm going to go and create a bend in here. So I go into that. I'm going to go and zoom in a little bit so you can see. I'm going to go and just double click on here. And as I add a point in here, I'm going to go and double click right into here. We'll add that point. And this allows me to pick this up and now move this around. However, if I use Shift on that point, I can create a curve. So if I hold down Shift, I can pull this out like this to the side. And I can pull the other side out as well. And now I've got the top and bottom, because I can copy and paste it. I can join them together. So if I zoom out a touch like this, you can see that there are these handles now that allow me to change the angle of my curve. And I can slot it straight into here and create the shape of this eye. Now the stroke on this line is quite thin. So again, I can use the stroke again. Go to my stroke while this is selected. Go to my stroke style. Like so. Go to my select. And now I can use this using copy and paste. So I've got my Control C, Control V. Like that. I can join them together like so. Use your group, hold down Shift, and group them together using your group. And there you have a basic eye very quickly. Not as good as the ones that I've made before. But now I can go and put this into my eye layer. So I'm going to just go and close these. Go and create a eye layer. This is eye 3. Right click again. Move to layer. Eye 3. And now it's on top, and now I can put this on top of here and resize it however I want. So it's looking a bit messy, but it's a very quick example. So what I'd like you to do is go and have a go at creating this and make your own layers in here. You'll have this file, and then you'll have an example next to you with your layers version and your flat layers as well. So you can go and create your layers in here, locking things as you create them. As always, year 6, good luck.